Hi, Fingal.
Hi, Tiffany. Hi.
Hey, thank you so much for agreeing to share your story with us today.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure.
It's been so amazing to have Fingal on one of my courses, guys, and he's got a really interesting journey. And so I asked him, I was like, please, can we do an interview with you and you show everybody, tell everybody about your story. I think it's a really inspiring story. It really helps you to see what's possible when you think out of the box, or you don't just take the norm as the way it is, and when you actually just go, you know what, I'm going to find my own way. And so I think you're really going to enjoy this, and I know that not just me, but everybody in the group finds Fingal real inspiration. So, on that note, Fingal, hi.
What an introduction.
You're welcome. I meant every single word of it, and I'm really thankful to one of my other clients for putting us in contact. And so I know that's probably starting a few pages into your journey, and I would like to take it right back to the beginning. Mm-hmm. And if you could just set the scene of what was happening for you before, just before that 3 pages in happened.
Sure. So I've been working as a fashion designer for around 7 years. And as I'm sure everyone knows, it's quite a kind of stressful environment.
Mm-hmm.
Not exactly helped by my tendency to kind of push myself quite hard and kind of kind of put a lot of pressure on myself, so it kind of exacerbated that in many ways. And then it all came to a bit of a head. Basically, I ended up in a hospital
wow.
for a week. And they ran pretty much every test that they could think of, trying to figure out what was going on. And they couldn't give me an answer. They couldn't give me a solution. So I kind of did what most people do in that situation, is kind of think, oh, it was just a bit of a blip, it's fine, we'll just carry on as normal. And then it just kept happening, and I was kind of getting more and more frustrated, and quite difficult, because I was kind of going to a lot of people and asking them, what should I do, what advice do you have? And most people just saying, sorry, I don't know what to do, I don't know what advice to give you. So it was there was quite a period of it being quite challenging and quite difficult and kind of quite scary. But I'm really, really thankful it all happened, because it basically, that was the catalyst to my whole journey, really.
So you had already achieved quite a lot with being a fashion designer. So you'd got your master's, was it, in fashion design? Yeah.
I'd got a master's, and then I was heading up a design department in a London fashion house. So it was, I think at one point we were doing 6 collections a year, kind of showing at London Fashion Week. So it was just, the turnover was incredibly quick.
Okay. So in a way, maybe you come from that place of like, I think I see it quite a lot in high achievers. It's like they've pushed themselves a lot, almost at breaking point, to get to that place of success, and then it's not really sustainable somehow. Either there's some type of emotional crisis or spiritual crisis or physical crisis, and for you it seems like it was a physical crisis.
It was probably all 3 to some degree. I think the thing is, it probably starts usually on an emotional, spiritual kind of level, and then if you kind of ignore that, the last place for it to go is the physical self, and it just says stop, I'm not having this anymore. And that's basically what happened to me.
Yeah.
No more.
Okay. So you were pushing and pushing and pushing and not listening to yourself, and then it got to that place where it was like the physical was the thing which put the brakes on, slammed the brakes on. And then it must be a really scary place to be, because I guess you couldn't work anymore. You were in hospital and nobody knew what the answers were, and you were asking for them, but you're just being met with
Yeah, and at the time I thought I was kind of doing everything that I ought, because I've been meditating for about 8 years. And this was actually something that was happening at the same time, but I was kind of having quite bizarre experiences in my meditation, and they were happening almost at the same time as this physical stuff happening. So I think there was basically, the universe was giving me lots of warning signs, or trying to certainly give me a nudge in the right direction. And I kind of finally just decided to listen, and actually start moving in that direction to kind of explore the spiritual side of me, the holistic side of me, and just kind of really give that the attention it was due.
Okay, so what did you do? I mean, if you were asking people and you were just getting like, sorry, don't know, can't help you. So the doctors were saying they didn't know what was wrong. They'd run every test imaginable. And then you were asking people and it was just brick wall. So how did you find the way through? What happened?
It's funny that the kind of the way the universe works. It's often if you open the door that like the deluge comes through. I think just kind of being brave enough to really open that door, because what had happened was, thankfully, so I was on a retreat when it happened again, and I was rushed to hospital. And you can imagine the contrast between going from a silent retreat to being in A&E. And I thought, I can't do this anymore. This can't keep happening. And thankfully, someone on the retreat said, have you ever thought about acupuncture? And it's not something that I'd ever kind of done much research about. It's something I was kind of vaguely interested in, but I just kind of thought it was for other people, really. And then that, bizarrely, I went to that appointment and just felt like it was the first time someone was really listening, and the first time that somebody really wanted to get to the bottom of what was going on for me.
Wow.
And then I suddenly thought, actually, this is the direction that is going to give me the solutions that I need. It was like someone was talking my language, really. So from that, it really just opened the door, and I thought, I went for it all guns blazing, really. I went for a Reiki healing, probably under a month later, and that really seemed to help and shift things. And I thought, actually, there's something in this. So I started the Reiki course, and then at almost exactly the same time that I took my Reiki 1, I started your course.
Okay, so we've got this real kind of it sounds like a very intense experience, incredibly intense. And I'm just wondering what happened to your work in that time.
So I had to make quite a decision. I carried on working. I changed the way I was working. I was doing a lot more freelance work at that point. And I just had to make a decision to prioritize my health and my well-being. And that became my focus, and the work became the background focus. It's not that I stopped. It's not that I kind of cut myself off from things immediately. I still kept those kind of contacts going, and I still fulfilled my duties. But it just basically had to stop being my priority. Yeah.
There was a quote I read from the Dalai Lama the other day, which said, I think somebody asked him what phases him in his life. Have you seen that quote?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm going to do it justice because I'm going to try and do it from memory. Maybe I'll need your help. But I think he said something along the lines of man, because he spends all his time trying to earn money, which sacrifices his health. And then he has to spend all his money to get his health back. And he just doesn't live in the present moment. So this sounds very much like your story, would you say?
Yeah, there's a one. Oh, you quoted it beautifully. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's very. And the other one that's kind of been playing me well is the Gandhi's quote of "There's more to life than increasing its speed." So I think those two things, I just thought, yeah, because it's especially because I live in London and there is this natural thing of you've got to get quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker.
Yeah, and it just took you on the route to burnout. And I think what happened is you said something really amazing just now about it was the courage to open the door properly, to face the truth and open the door properly and just allow everything to kind of come in. Because I think what happens for people is if they get in that place, quite often they just feel like there's no answer. You know, their health service is telling me they don't know, and I just need some time off of work and I'll go back as soon as I'm just about better enough. Or maybe it's people that don't go, you know, maybe someone doesn't go back to work, but they just feel stuck now. They just feel like that's it. They can't work. They can't improve their health. They're just stuck. And you said something about, you know, opening the door and facing the truth, something along those lines. I think that's been your saving grace, is that you've instead of lying down and going, well, that's it then, you've kind of gone, no, I'm gonna find my own answers, thank you.
Yeah, because I tried the first approach at the beginning. I just thought, oh, well, all I need is a bit of rest,
Right.
and then I can go back, and then it just resurfaced because I wasn't getting to the core issue. And then I remember having a conversation with my acupuncturist, and she said, so often we get given those warning signs, and so often what people do is just ignore them and then just carry on as though, you know, it's just, yeah, as long as I ignore it, it kind of goes away. And I'm really thankful that there was just a moment where I thought, no, I can't, there's something going on and I need to kind of burrow into that and find out what that is. Yeah, I think that's really, and it's also that thing of, I think so many people wait for circumstances to happen in before they can kind of investigate those things, or, you know, it's like, well, as just when I get that promotion, then everything will be all right, or just when I move house, then everything will be all right, and then I can start looking after myself.
I hear it so much. Yeah. It's like there's always a reason why it's not now. You know, it's like, yeah, it's not now because I need to move first, or it's not now because my children are doing their exams, or it's not now because there's this thing happening at work. And when I get to the other side of that,
yeah, completely. And I think that's kind of what happened when I was lying in the hospital bed, and it was just that thing of, but it is now, like, you can't. And it's amazing, actually. One of the biggest lessons that I've learned on your course particularly is how much can manifest from stillness and how much can manifest from reflection and from just kind of turning a little bit inwards and allowing yourself space, and how much can grow out of that. We get into such a habit of thinking, if I push, that will force growth.
Yeah.
That's how we get growth to happen. And it's like, actually, sometimes if we just come back to ourselves, just investigate ourselves a bit more. That's the amazing thing about tarot, really, in general, and the course. It's like, it just really allows that reflection, really allows that insight, really allows that. understanding.
And I love that you've brought that up. We will get back to that third page in a minute where we're going to like tease everyone here with your story, because it's so like there's so many different stories within your story. It's amazing. So what you brought up there is quite interesting, because I think people, when they think tarot, they think they don't see it necessarily as reflection or insight. They see it more, well, maybe insight, but actually what I'm thinking of insight is sight within, insight into yourself, where I think they see it as into insight as in something external, and something in the future. And what you've said is very much how the course is. It's kind of the opposite, I think, of what you might think tarot is about, would you say?
Yes. Yeah, definitely that. And it takes a little while to unpick that, but that's kind of a necessary. It feels like very much like a process of going backwards in order to go forwards, particularly. But yeah, that's really it was the kind of thing that I expected the least from the course, but the biggest gift actually is the fact that you just really it's almost like you're pulling back from your own situation just enough to kind of get it's almost like doing a tarot spread for yourself in a weird way. It's like you actually get an overview of the landscape of what's going on for you, and actually knowing how to kind of work with that and move forward with that.
So would you say it's like going into a 5-month tarot spread for yourself? Wow.
Yeah, that's quite a good way to explain it.
And how was it that you ended up on the course?
So I've had an interest in tarot for a while. A friend bought me a pack, I think for a birthday present or a Christmas present, about 3 years ago. And I was just reading for friends, just as we do, kind of an evening, you've had dinner and you're like, oh, let's do the card. And then I just reached a certain kind of plateau with my understanding. I'd read quite a few books on it, but it was kind of like I was doing it by rote. It was just like, oh, that card means that, so let's explain that. So I didn't, and I kind of wanted to know more, but I didn't really know how and where to go with that. And then I was actually on a retreat.
Funnily enough.
I'm a bit of a retreat addict. I was on a retreat, and I pulled out my tarot. I was just sitting there, and then this woman came over and said, "Oh, you read tarot?" And we kind of got into conversation about it. And she said, "Oh, I'm doing this course. It's really good. Like we have to carry the one card with us each day, and it really helps us develop." So it kind of piqued my interest, but I didn't really think of anything of later. And then, when I hit this plateau, I went back to that person that I met and said, "Oh, you know that course you mentioned?" So that's actually how I got introduced to you.
Yeah, wonderful. I love that. It's like, again, not knowing where the answer's going to come from, it's like just acknowledging what you need, and kind of, it seems like it comes to you somehow. It's like that has been the journey, I think, with the health. At first it was like, oh, I know what I need, but I'm not getting it. But then somebody gave you one answer, acupuncture. You felt listened to for the first time, like somebody really understood and just, wanted to work it out. And then that led to Reiki. And so you did your Reiki 1, and then what you said as well about, opening the door, the deluge, and just having to face it all. And so then you were like, actually, something in me is telling me that I need to develop through the tarot. Yes, as well. So the same time, you then went back to this person and said, "What's that course you're on?" And then we got on a call, and that was it. Yeah,
completely.
And so at that time you were still doing work, but you were, I guess you weren't in a like the same level of pay or security anymore. And so that's quite intense, because you know your health has been, you know, forcing you to not be able to work in a way, you know, and then, you know, you don't have the same level of security anymore. And you were also having quite strong psychic and spiritual things going on as well, weren't you?
Yeah, that started all arising during meditation. Yeah, and kind of very strong. And again, that was a similar thing. I was going to people and saying, I'm having these experiences in meditation. What do they mean? And the people that were leading the meditation retreats or courses were kind of like, I'm sorry, I don't really, it might be this, it might be that, but it never really ringing true. So again, that was another really cemented why I needed to do the course, actually.
Okay, so when you came on the tarot course, you had that kind of feeling that it would help you with that side of things.
Yeah. As well.
Yeah. As well as learning the tarot. Yeah.
Exactly.
So really, you've had to kind of really embrace your self-development at a time when you didn't have any security to do that.
Completely.
How did that feel?
I just thought it's kind of going back to that Dalai Lama quote. Actually, I just thought I can earn more money in the future. Money can always be earned at a point when we need it. But actually, what can't be recuperated back is my happiness and my health. Actually, and I just thought, if I don't invest in that now, when is that going to happen? It's that kind of, oh, I'll do it next year thing. And it's like, well, actually, you don't quite know. Yeah, there was just such a sense of immediacy with it. And I just thought, I think this, and I genuinely mean, it was that thing of, this money is so much better spent here with developing myself than it will be anywhere else. It was just, I didn't have to question it, actually. It was just like, do it now.
It was a really strong inner knowing by the sounds of it. And it's so amazingly true. Like, some wisdoms are just, they don't change, even though, you know, our work situations and our daily lives change, they don't change. And I just have to read Marcus Aurelius's little book of meditations that was written 200 BC or something like that to see the timeless wisdom and how it applies to today still. And you know, the Dalai Lama is another one like that. And I have my granddad, who to me is like being in a room with Buddha. He is amazing. And he says something very similar to what you just said. If you don't have your health, you don't have anything. Your health is your wealth, right?
Completely.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so for you it was like, no, I've just got to do it. I've just got to, like, I'm in this situation now, and it's got to that point now where I have no choice. Is that kind of the feeling?
Yeah, definitely. And also I thought there was a thing of, you're being presented the answers
Now, after not having them
given to you, just listen to them. Like, you have an option. You can. It's like when I met that woman on retreat, and she said, "Oh, I'm doing this course," and I thought, "There's the answer. This is what you've been looking for. It's being presented to you."
And so, when you came on the course, at first you thought that it was going to help you with your tarot and help you with your spiritual and your psychic abilities.
Yeah.
And what's the journey? Yeah, okay, let's try and put this into words. Well, what's the journey actually been like?
Oh, where to start? I'm aware that we're restricted by time. I'd say lots of things. It's almost indescribable, actually, what happens on the journey. I think time and time again, the group would say, "I don't understand this. It's just about pack of 78 cards, and yet you see all these people just going through these amazing experiences, these amazing transformations, really kind of finding themselves, like finding their truths. Yeah. I think I mentioned to you before, is this idea of, for those that kind of understand and know the tarot, it's a bit like the star card. And the transformational truth of the tarot journey is a bit like, you want to get to that star, but to do so, you've kind of got to go through the fool's journey anyway, but also just through the devil and the tower. You really have to be prepared to kind of bring up your bravery and just kind of really go through it, go through it.
So when you know, you're saying there about the bravery, you know, to really go through it. So when you joined the course, did you think it would take that much bravery?
It's like, it's just 78 cards. What's going on? One thing that that immediately struck me when I joined the course was like, oh my God, here's a group of people that understand, are looking for the same things as me. They're talking my language. They're really supportive. I can express everything that I'm finding challenging and difficult, and that being really kind of received, and people want to work. It's a bit like that first time I went to acupuncture. It's like people were listening and really wanting to help me kind of unearth what was going on. So that was my immediate thought.
The group in the tarot is amazing, isn't it? I mean, I don't think I have ever come across a group that is, everyone says the same thing, you know. It's like I think you'll agree in terms of, you didn't really have anybody that you could talk to or that understood, and then like when you came on the Transformational Truth of Tarot, it was like quite an amazing experience in terms of your tribe and like what you didn't expect. And yeah, do you mind telling us a bit about that experience?
Yeah, it's exactly as you said. It was that thing of not knowing where to get the answers, and kind of tentatively talking about these things with other people, and other people going, I don't really understand what you're talking about. So to come in a group where it's like, oh, everyone's talking that kind of language, but you kind of go in expecting it to look a particular way, and then you realise, actually, that person over there is a teacher, that person over there is a lawyer, that person's got, you know, it, and they're all from over the world, people from Australia and America and all across Europe. So it isn't necessarily immediately what you expect it to look like. But that's the real beauty of it, I think, is actually people from completely different places and backgrounds and demographics all connecting and understanding and kind of getting insight into other people's way of seeing the world. And that's actually the magic, I think. Had that group all been very much of the same personality type, it wouldn't have the same depth or kind of richness or the kind of same level of these different experiences. Like there's such a range of ages, there's kind of men and women, there's, yeah, just people doing all these different professions. Yeah.
That's great, isn't it? I mean, this is the thing, you know, often, you know, this type of thing is women's world as well, you know, and it's hippie women's world. Yeah. And really, you know, I love working with men as much as I love working with women, and I'd love to see a world where there's, yeah, okay, maybe there's some places for all women's group and some places for all men's group, but I'd really love to see more of the yin yang kind of balance in the world, and that coming together. And so, you know, it's for me, it's important not to just have it as women's hour or women's group. And I love the harmony and the balance and the power that you get from, you know, the masculine and the feminine energies. And like you say, it's everyone. Like, some of the most spiritual people I have ever met are, I'm thinking of my granddad again, you know, and he was a butcher, you know, and it's taught me that he was very much Native American with it, you know. He was very honorable in his whole practice with it, but it taught me that you didn't even have to be vegetarian to be spiritual. It's all in how you do things. And obviously, you know, I'd love to be vegetarian. I really would, especially the way that it is now. And I really struggle because of my background. But it was really interesting to have been brought up like that, with that type of person for a role model. And then there's, you know, when people ask me, my husband, is he into this? And I'm like, no, you know, he's just like, he said to me when we first got together, Tiffany, you need someone who's into tarot and astrology. And I was like, no, not really, because, you know, sometimes those people are just trying to find something, whereas you've already got that thing. There's nothing wrong with trying to find that thing, but he'd already had it. He didn't need those. He had his own practice in his own ways, which is going out walking for hours on ends. And everybody has their own practice or their own calling. And, you know, one of the most surprising things, you talk about the surprise of who's in the group. One of the most surprising things for me was how many lawyers are, you know, I suddenly started clocking it after a few years of like, oh yeah, actually there's a lot. And you just don't think that would be the case in a group with maybe hippies, creatives, writers is another one, teachers, even mechanics. You know, I've had mechanics, male mechanics as clients. And so, you know, it really is everyone. And like you say, Catholics, I've had, you know, people coming from very, very, very strong religious or Christian backgrounds. And actually, you know, there is no judgment. It's like all of that can be taken right off, can't it? And it's just, you meet each other on, well, you tell everyone. I'm getting on my soapbox. You know better. You're in the course. I mean, what would you say?
I think it's really interesting that you're talking, particularly about kind of lawyers and mechanics and etc. I'm reminded, I'm going slightly off piece, but I was reminded of the fact that I used to work in a fabric shop for a long time, and we used to get lots of accountants coming in, buying all these fabrics. And I remember one time saying to this man, what are you doing with all this fabric? And he said, oh, in the evening I just make tapestries.
Oh, wow.
Giant tapestries. And no one at his work knew. But what they would say is, you're so calm. You're always so calm. And he said that, and there was another accountant that was making shoes in the evening. And it's about finding that balance in your life. They lived a very analytical life, so they needed that creative output. And it's interesting that you're talking about lawyers, because it's like they're living a very analytical, cerebral world. And they need somewhere in order to ignite their intuition and ignite their kind of more spiritual exploration. And that's just amazing to watch, because it can't be prescribed either. It's so personalized every time you see those developments. I think you enter the course thinking that your trajectory will be in a very kind of particular way, and the magic lies in the fact that the thing that you have to work through, or the things that are unearthed, or the kind of transformation, or the truths that you find are never, they just can't really be imagined. And that's partly what makes it so magical, and partly what makes it kind of seemingly, you know, that can be quite intimidating at the beginning. To think, God, where is this going to lead? But I think as long as it's just, I'm struck, I'm thinking particularly of someone in the group, it's just, we were having a conversation just about being integral, and being really, just finding all those different aspects to yourself and actually really drawing them in, and actually just being really honest to who you are. I think that's something that I've heard time and time again in the group, is that people just feel they're being much more authentic to themselves. And that's a scary process. And you know, that's when people are around. I think that's why the group is so important. And yes, you could learn the tarot through a book, or you know, through workshops or whatever, but I think that's why it's so important, because it does bring about change, and those that are around you can sometimes be struck by that change. So that's why the group's so important, because you're given the space to really flesh that out and tease that out with other people that kind of have gone through a similar thing.
Absolutely. When I first did, well, you know, we're talking about why it's called the transformational truth of tarot. You know, it is really the transformational truth. And when I first put it out there, it was 1-to-1, you answer this email kind of thing, journey. And people were writing back to me going, Tiffany, I feel like I've taken the red pill and no one else has. And it's really, you know, quite challenging and quite scary, actually. And so then when I brought it into the group, it was like, boom. It was, the power of it was amazing, doing it in a group. And still, you know, I don't do the group exercises as such, because I'm one that kind of like, hello, come in, welcome. I can't even say I'm the teacher, because the tarot teaches, isn't it? It's like the whole divine energy of the rhythm of, you know, the way it's all set up to just take you through the journey is that. So I feel like I'm the welcomer, and I go, oh, hello, yes, okay, come on in, kind of thing. And I've forgotten my thread, but what was I talking about?
You're talking about groups.
Thank you for listening, just testing you. Yeah, okay, groups. And so then I do my own practice daily. You know, there are certain practices in the course, aren't they, which I guess transforms them from, it's just a deck of 78 cards that you read the meanings from in the book, and you maybe tell future with, to, oh my God, these are living, breathing gods and goddesses that I feel privileged to be connecting with and working with, because they are showing me so many divine truths about myself and the way that the world works. And then, as I think you were saying, you see that in other people in the group as well, and how it's happening for them, and it all just goes. And so there I am in my little world going, so what's your best thing about the course? Is it doing this exercise or that exercise or this exercise? And everybody unanimously goes, it's the group. You know, it's the one-to-ones that you do with each other weekly. I think you'd said on one webinar that the bonds that are formed.
Yeah.
Because it's the truth, I guess, isn't it? You know, you're seeing the truth of each other.
I know that I just kind of wanted to say that, that's kind of at no point, because sometimes when people think of groups, they can think of kind of being under the microscope or very, you know, at the center of attention. And then just kind of reiterate that actually that's how much you want to put forward, and how much you want to just how much you want to actually allow other people to see is completely up to you. It's not. At no time did I ever feel that people were being impersonal or kind of, you know, looking into my life or anything. It always felt very, very supportive. Not, it's
like you're on the same journey together. You know, I often say, like, when I run these mini versions, because I run mini versions for people to get little tasters of what this big journey of the transformational truth of like tarot is like. So I do like maybe 10 days where we might go through the swords or something like that. And I mean, you've obviously done part of that, because we lived the whole kind of tarot out. So you know that this is just a very tiny kind of snippet. But I think that can actually, what I say to people is, they're on the journey anyway, you know, so they might do the Ace of Swords and then the Two of Swords and then the Three of Swords, and then think, oh, I've been busy this weekend and, you know, I've just not been doing it. And then it's like, no, actually it has its own power. And once you're on it, you're on it. And again, I guess that's part of the bravery again, isn't it? But it's like the fool's journey. You have to be the fool, to go on the journey, which is the tarot. It is the fool's journey. You have to jump off the cliff, right? And then it's like there's no way back. But the beauty of it is that you can, as you were saying, do it one way or another. And so a good analogy, I think, is calling it the tarot train. And on the tarot train, there's no getting off. There's no stops. It's a fast train, yeah, from A to B. Okay, that's what it is. But you can either look out of the window and take every moment of it in, and also engage with your fellow people and see what they're getting from the journey, and that really enriches the whole thing. Or you can be there on your laptop or something like that, and you get from it will still have played out somehow, but what you get from the journey depends on whether you are engaging with it or not, to a certain degree. So I know what you're saying about, at no point did you feel under the kind of like microscope or things like that, or it was out of balance or out of key in that sense. But I think it's also important to say that, one of your saving graces and one of your reasons that you've been such a success story, and we'll talk more about that in a bit, is how you have thrown yourself in. Like another one says, what you put in, you get out. I mean, what would you say about that?
Yeah, totally. And also, I think I've said it many times before on the group, is actually is the more honest and true and the more vulnerable you are, I suppose, the more that allows others to be honest and true and vulnerable. It really opens up the space for that. And I think that is so much of the group success, actually, is that everyone knows that they can do that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's the transformational truth. It's like you can't hide, can you? It's like it's there, it's in front of your face, and it's like you just got to be in this group and be like, okay, I can't hide, because you're connecting with people through the tarot, and it's just there's nowhere to hide. And then what happens is that armor goes, and you're in that place of vulnerability, and that's where the real connection can really, really happen. And it's powerful stuff, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us now, like when you came in, you were in that place of it's going to help with your tarot and your spiritual and your psychic ability, and now you're at the place of going on a really exciting adventure, which we're going to hear about in a little bit. What would you say has been, how has that manifested in terms of the personal journey and the professional journey?
So in terms of personal, I mean, there's quite a lot. There's quite a lot to cover, but I'll try and synopsisize. It's so rich. I think all the things that are kind of I've worked through unexpectedly. And I think one of the main things is kind of what I was talking about at the beginning, is really giving myself permission not to be working right at the edge of things, not pushing and pushing. It's really, the more you push, particularly in tarot, the more it kind of bounces back in lots of ways. It kind of really best when you're just easing into it and allowing it to just flow through you. Anytime you think, okay, let's get this quicker, let's push my mind against this, it just completely backfires. So that's been a big,
beautifully
big
put.
Just relaxing into myself, not putting pressure onto myself, really just giving myself the ability to breathe and ease into things.
So it's been a very big transformation in terms of like going from the person that pushed and broke to actually, you know what, if I do that, all that happens is a smack back, actually. Okay.
Yeah, so that's been, I think, one of the biggest transformations. And also just, it's again, kind of going back to what I'm saying, it's just given me perspective. It's given me more of an overview of my mandala of different aspects, actually, and how I can bring those together, and my skill sets, and kind of what it's starting to synthesize different aspects of my life, I suppose. And I really didn't expect that from the course, but it really has allowed, as I said before, it's kind of integrating those different areas of myself. Everything from my kind of creative pursuits to my kind of more kind of spiritually aligned exploration, also just to much more of a it's really, one of the other big things is it really made me ground, really just allowed me a solid foundation from which to work from.
Which you wouldn't necessarily think with the tarot again, would you?
No.
It allowed me to ground. Yeah, I mean, what do you think it was about the tarot that helped you to ground?
One of the, from a very kind of practical level, it's because I'm a creative, it's good that I can work with visuals and work with something tangible, because that's one thing that distinguishes tarot from a lot of other psychic practices, is that you've actually got something solid and tangible to work with, and you've always got something to revert back to. When you're doing kind of other practices, it's a lot more ethereal, perhaps. So that's actually having the kind of the tangible, solid material things in my hand has very much allowed me to ground. But also, you just, even the messages in the tarot itself, the whole of the Pentacles is about grounding. You've got the archetypes about grounding.
Very true.
But there was a particular moment I remember when I was just having a day of rest, and I was working with the tarot, and just the messages were so much clearer when I was in that kind of restful, grounded place. And I thought, oh gosh, you really do need to ground. It was kind of,
beautiful. And it's so interesting talking about the Pentacles and grounding and earthing. And I was just thinking, going back to your story about the accountants briefly before we come back to the grounding aspect, that you wouldn't necessarily think that about an accountant normally, you know, but if we look at the King of Pentacles just in its normal meaning state, you know, you've got the Taurus, you've got the Pentacle, the King of Pentacles, you know, the accountant guy counting his money in his parlor house, but he's also in so much richness in every single way, fabrics, you know, interior design. It's all about that comfort, you know, that money can buy, and that they like good things and nice things that's not always obvious. It's the same with lawyers and the Justice card and the High Priestess card. You put them together and you find out about the mythology between them, and they're basically two sides of the same person again. And so, you know, there is always so much. I mean, that's just two things pulling out of the air right now. So when you go through a 5-month journey with 78 cards with a group of other people, grounding is important. But actually, as you say, it actually is the tool to ground. Like, the thing that I love so much about the tarot is that it's tangible, it appears in your face, and that in itself grounds you. It makes you go, oh, I can't argue with that, it's right here. Come back down to earth, bang. And that is the transformational truth again, right? So it has everything in there to work, doesn't it? Really, it's just a case of taking a deep breath in and going, okay, I'm going to go on the Fool's Journey and jump that cliff. What would you say to someone that maybe has heard about this a few times, or maybe even the first time, and really kind of feels the pull to do it, but you know, something is like, just they've got to the edge of the cliff and then they're like, can't do it. I can do it when I've built a ladder.
It's a sunny day. Yeah. It really goes back to what I was saying before, and I think any kind of investment in ourselves is never going to be wasted, and it's kind of, it's difficult to say without sounding a bit trite, but it's what has happened since I've gone through the journey and come out the other end. It's what we were speaking about before. It's just, I've come out feeling so much richer in understanding myself, richer in understanding the world, richer in understanding my purpose, direction that I should be going. I think we're so in a culture of, we spend so outwardly, or we invest our time so outwardly, and I think a lot, and me myself, definitely from my personal experience, forgetting to invest in oneself and really forgetting to give yourself permission, because often you think, oh, I can, I think we've all been there. It's like we have really good intentions and we'll do it for 2 weeks. Like I'll exercise, and you go to the gym every day for 2 weeks, and then your gym pass never gets used again, or you for a week, and then you just go. And the thing about I've done that a few times myself. I think the thing, because obviously the course is a big investment, but it's, by golly, is it easier to sustain?
Yeah.
When you've got that structure, because that's part of what you're receiving back, is that structure and the support of the group, and things are done in a very kind of bite-sized way, and if you fall off, there's someone there that will help you back on. I fell off the course for a few weeks, and I think everyone does, really, because it is, you're stirring up quite a lot of stuff.
So
you will fall off, but there are always people that will gently kind of help you get back on, and that is a rare thing. That's a rare thing. So I think that's
Okay, so I mean, that's a good point as well. It is the transformational truth, and quite often when we actually hit that transformation point, it can sometimes feel too much, to be in a group. So that very thing that was helping you to stay on board then becomes the very thing that you don't want to engage with, and then it can be like, that's where there is where there might be the risk, of like you not getting through the whole thing. Now, I would say it's about 98% of the people that come on this course go through it. And I think it is because of what you say, that structure. My golly, is it easy to maintain, because it's like you're on that fast tarot train and that's it. You can't really get off. It's like it's just got its own way of doing it for you, in that sense, hasn't it? Would you say? Okay.
I also think the way I'm going to sing your praises a bit, which but it's also the way you've constructed there's a very natural arc, and I know that is a lot to do with the tarot anyway. There is a natural arc in the tarot's journey, but I think the way that you've constructed the lessons, like there's a very kind of ease. Everyone's so supportive that they'll very much help you over that initial thing, because when you first start, it can feel like, oh gosh, there's so much to be getting on with, but everyone will be there for you to kind of break that down and make it a lot more sizable. And there's just, yeah, the way that you've constructed it, so there's a natural arc, so by the time that you come to the end, you really feel like you've come full circle, or you've gone through a natural progression. So yeah, it's the credit to the way, because obviously you've done this journey with people before, you've really tweaked it and you've really mastered it now. It feels like it's a very kind of clean together. Yeah.
And it always grows. So like when I first put it as a group, it was a live group who started all at the same time, and I think we just need to make it clear that now it's not like that, you know. And like you're saying, when you can't come on at first, there's people to help you, you know. And I think that is wonderful that, you know, there is that progression, and you're helped by the elders, aren't you, the people that have been on it longer than you. And then you want to give. People tell me they want to give that same support because it's just been amazing. So it's just, and I think when you become an elder as well, it makes you look back and go, oh gosh, I remember being there, and oh my God, and wow, and yeah,
completely.
Yeah. And so now, where is it that you're at? Please do tell. It's so exciting.
So I've just completed the course. So I'm setting up my own business, an own company, to will incorporate tarot, Reiki, and psychic readings. So yeah, very much going professional with it all, which again is not something that I necessarily foresaw. I don't think you have to have that goal in mind to kind of to start the journey or join the course, but it's just something that really naturally arose. I think partly out of just seeing how much it benefits other people when you're doing reads for people, and just seeing them illuminate and kind of that moments of realization, and just realizing that actually you're really helping people. The amount of times I've spoken to people after, like a few weeks after, and they said, you know, that thing that you suggested that I do, I've been doing it, and it's like, gosh, has it helped? And that's just, I've not had that before. I've not seen such immediate results of just helping people, really, and just giving people real clarity. So it's I'm really hungry for it now. So that's really setting up my own.
Yeah, so it's come from a really genuine place of a natural or organic place. I think you said some point in the group that, you know, when you came on, you thought you'd already knew quite a bit about tarot, and you found it quite a bit of a humbling experience. and now it's like, oh, actually, just being in that beautiful, humble, gorgeous, connecting with others and on their journey space through this amazing tool, and all of those inner transformations and wonderful holistic kind of thing that's happened for you, with your health being better as well. And of course that's to do with other things like Reiki and your whole spiritual journey, and it's all holistic in that sense. And but having all of this, and it's like it's all just naturally kind of coming to a place where it's like, oh, actually no, this just feels, I'm not pushing. It's coming from that place of, this is just really nice, and this is just really nice, I guess is just the word, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it just feels really, I'm just completely at ease. Yeah. It just really going back to right at the beginning when I was talking about really feeling like I was pushing against right at the edge of things.
Which is also interesting, isn't it? Because I think your journey has manifested in a bit of a way that maybe, you know, could really take you back into that place of feeling like, like, because on one hand you've set up the Wellness Foundry, yes, where people can you know, connect with you to have tarot and Reiki, and so that's just online, and there's the wellnessfoundry.co.uk. Yeah, okay. And so there's a place to contact you there, isn't there, that anyone can go through to if they want to speak to you about anything. Yeah, okay. And then there's there's this other thing that's kind of happened right at the time where you finish the course. And this is also what happens, actually. People finish the course at a time when they're doing a master's, or they've got like a major operation, or it's like there's some massive life-changing thing. But yours is like incredibly unique, and I think you didn't think that you were naturally, organically going to be building your business, and now you've got this natural organic growth of your business going on, which is fantastic in terms of like the wellness foundry, you know, and doing Reiki and tarot with people, and at the same time you've got this other thing going on, and it's like you've got this business success happening quite naturally and organically, yet at the same time there's this other manifestation which looks like it could be taking you away from that. And it could be one of those things where you feel like, again, you have to go into a push thing if you're not careful. But actually, just tell us. Let's not build up. Come on, tell us. What's happening?
Yeah, it's slightly bad. So I was actually meant to be working in China for 2 years, but that didn't, I managed 6 months. And the reason I mention that is because I never thought it would ever be something that I was doing. But my mother has been planning, she's owned horses her entire life, and she's been planning this lifelong trip, and it's finally happening. And I turned around and said, do you know what, I'm not in China, let's do this together. So we're going to be traveling 4,500 kilometers across Europe.
Wow.
3 horses, so it's just me and my mother, 3 horses, and we're going across France into Ireland, down the west coast of France, across the Pyrenees into northern Spain. So it's a triangle that's never been linked before, it's never been traveled before, and we're wild camping about 90% of it, so we're really going back to basics. Really
wow, so you're doing a 4,500 kilometer trip through 3 countries.
Yeah, so it's just over about 3,000 miles.
3,000 miles on horses.
On horses.
And I mean, this is incredible. Like, you've got a publishing deal with it for when you come back.
Yeah, so it's a book about the experience. Yeah.
Congratulations, that's fantastic. And so when this was coming up at the same time, I guess your thought was, but now my business is taking off, you know, how am I actually going to go back to basics? You know, what's actually going to happen there? But how is that actually kind of coming together now?
So I'm going to live out the kind of Romany gypsy fantasy and be a traveling soothsayer. Actually, I'm really gonna. I almost need the headscarf, but we're gonna have a board. We're gonna paint a board saying tarot readings offered and hang it from one of the horses, and I will be offering distant readings.
So you're going to be like a 21st century mode up Skype mobile yeah.
So if anybody fancies a tarot reading from a tent in the middle of the French countryside,
you don't even need to get on a plane.
The comfort of your own living room.
And it's going to be amazing because we can follow you as well, can't we?
That's
You're
right.
going to be on Instagram as Follow That Mule, yes?
Yeah, that's the handle. Yeah, Follow That
So
Mule.
you're going to be living out this traveling Romany gypsy life, and you're going to be vlogging about it on Follow That Mule on Instagram. Yes?
Yeah, so and there'll be a website that's going up. It's not quite up yet, but it'll be up in a couple of weeks, which will just again be followthatmule.com.
Followthatmule.com. So there's the wellnessfoundry.co.uk. is they can always contact you through there wherever you are. But if you want to come on the journey with Fiongals and his mother and the horses through 3,500 miles horseback, was that right? Yeah. And it's going to have a book, you know, it's got the deal already. If you want to be part of that adventure, you can just go to followthatmule.com. on Instagram and see the vlogs. And I think it's fantastic because you really are kind of living the dream. Like one of my teachers said to me, that you can travel the world on a pack of cards. All you need is to put it in your back pocket and you'll never go hungry or anything like that. And I think these days we make life so much more complicated than it needs to be. You know, we're working to pay the bills, to buy the car, to buy the clothes, to go to work, you know, and it's like we're kind of missing the point somewhere. And this feels a bit like your journey from beginning to end. It's like amazing transformation, incredible.
Yeah,
Wait to see. I for one will most definitely be following that mule.
Yeah, wonderful.
Okay, so thank you so much for this. And yeah, just remember, guys, if you want any readings, even though Fingal is off on horseback, you know, it is going to be available for you. And yeah, you can be part of this amazing journey. And it's so inspirational. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Tiffany.
You're welcome. And for those of you that are like, oh, she's going on about the transformational truth of tarot again, but actually, you know what, this is now one time too many. I know I have to do this, or you know, the button is there, and like I said, 98% of the people do finish. And yes, you might have that transformational, well, that's what it's all about, but you know, it's part of that arc. And if you didn't have that, what would it be about? It would be about learning the tarot out of a book. So it would be a very expensive tarot course. Where it's a, what would you say? Would you say it's a tarot course, a self-development course, and you're thinking a bit of professional?
Set yourself up for a big challenge because it's very indefinable, really. Every time there's what's it about, you're like, oh, it's kind of about tarot. It's kind of about finding yourself. So yeah, just join and find out. I suppose is the only.
You know, that's what I end up saying quite often. So you feel my pain now. It's really hard to describe such a course, isn't it? It is one of those things you just have to go on, and I'm sure you'll be one of those 98% that kind of do go through the whole thing. If you are just like, if you just make that commitment of like, you know, I am going to do this, not tomorrow, not next year, but I'm just, yeah, the time is now and I'm going to do it, then do it. So you can just press the button below, and that will take you through to have a chat with me, because I talk to everybody that comes on, because I need to make sure that it is the right thing for you, for me, and for the group. And that is why the group works really well as well, and it's such a safe place. So thank you, Fingal, and it's been an absolute pleasure, and so pleased that you know, you were on the same retreat as somebody else in the course, and that they said those magic words to you, and now we're here. Thank you very much for being an amazing part of the group and my life, and yeah, we'll catch you around the mule. Follow that mule, guys, okay? And press the button to have a chat with me. I am quite harmless, don't worry. You can just come through and have a chat. And we can see about going on that journey as well. As Fingal goes on the mule, we'll go on the tarot. Thanks, Fingal.
Thanks a million.
Bye, everyone.